Hello and welcome back to Metal Gear Study. Recently it was my birthday, and as one of my presents I got the book The Creative Gene, and I intend on taking this away with me for my honeymoon off to New Zealand for a few weeks over Christmas and New Year. And once I have read it cover to cover, I intend on doing a brief review on the book. But before I go away, I just wanted to kind of introduce the book to you by reading through the introduction. After all, it is Christmas soon, and it may pique your interest where you didn't have any interest in it before. You might then be inclined to potentially buy it for somebody else or see if somebody can get it for you for Christmas. So without further ado, let's go through the introduction to The Creative Gene. Memes are what connect us. I began the original edition of this book with a quote: "A world without books is inconceivable. More than 6 years later, my feelings haven't changed, but I and my circumstances have changed greatly." Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes came out in March 2014, and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain came out in September 2015. In December of that year, I went independent and established Kojima Productions. I had briefly considered stepping back from video game development to instead support myself by making small-scale films or writing, but my desire to respond to the wishes of my colleagues and fans quickly proved stronger, and so I chose to continue creating video games. I rented a small office space, not even 9 square meters, and began a fast-paced international search to secure staff and the software tools and engines we would need for production. As our company grew in size, we eventually needed a larger office, and I scoured Tokyo to find one. Meanwhile, we were simultaneously beginning production of our new game. There were never enough hours in the day to get everything done, but even then, there was one part of my daily routine I never neglected: going to a bookstore. This is what I do. I go to a bookstore, pick out books, take them in my hand, buy the ones that call to me, and lose myself reading them. Even on my business trips, I can't feel at ease unless I have several books in my bag. Picking out books and reading them is more than a habit I've maintained through life. It's a part of who I am. I was a latchkey kid, and as the first one home, turning on the lights was my duty. Opening a book in solitude was my routine. Books kept the feelings of isolation and loneliness from crushing me. My father's early death contributed to a lack of role models in my life. But inside books, I was able to find adults and teachers to guide me along. Books and movies provide only virtual experiences, but those experiences are valuable nonetheless. Of course, travelling somewhere yourself and taking in the local atmosphere would be superior. Climbing a mountain yourself would unquestionably provide a higher quality experience than listening to someone else describe climbing one. But a person can only do so much, and there is value in sharing in another's experiences vicariously through books or film. Stories allow you to experience places you could never go, the past, the future, or distant worlds. You can become a different ethnicity or gender. Even when you're reading all by yourself, you're sharing those stories as they unfold before you with countless people whom you've never met. We are alone, but we are connected. That awareness has been my constant saviour since my childhood. And that's why, through this book, I hope to communicate the feeling of connectedness that other books have given me. The intermediaries of those connections are memes, a concept introduced by the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins. Whereas genes are biological in nature, memes are units of information, such as cultural ideas, customs and values, that are spread between people and passed on to future generations. I think stories could be fairly described as memes given form. As stories are passed from one generation to another, and as they are written and read, culture is carried forward. Like genes are passed on through a connection between one person and another, memes are passed on through a connection between a person and a book or a film. The world is filled with countless books, movies, and songs, so many that one person cannot possibly hope to experience them all. Consequently, I place tremendous significance upon the media I encounter within the limits of my lifetime. Such encounters are acts of happenstance. They can seem like a product of fate. I have no idea what will connect with me, or where, or what kind of connection will form. And so, rather than wait in a passive haze, I desire to act with purpose and to cherish the encounters that result from my choices. I feel the same way about meeting people. That is why I go to a bookstore every day. I keep going so that I may create new encounters. Every day, I come across all kinds of books, each offering their own unique connection. Some catch my curiosity, some make their appeals to me, and some I simply pass by. Through the process of observing and recognizing those connections, I become better at finding encounters that are meaningful to me, and I further hone my sensibilities. Not everything is a winner. That is true for books, movies, music, or any other man-made creative endeavour. In fact, 9 in 10 are misses. But among that other 10% are incredible works of art. As someone who makes his living by creating, I am always thinking that I want to continue producing work that makes it into that 10%. This gives me all the more reason to train and refine my ability to sense the one winner in 10. That's not to suggest I'm doing anything special through this process. I go to a bookstore, I buy a book when I feel a connection with it, and I read it. If the book I chose is a miss, there is no reason to become discouraged. That is also part of the learning process that will guide me towards another winner. Time spent reading such a book is not wasted, but rather leads me to my next encounter. Tucked inside nearly every book on my shelves is the receipt from when I purchased that book. I keep them so that I won't forget that time. Printed with the store's name and the time and date of purchase, the receipts rekindle memories of not only the contents of that book, but of the time I spent with it, from where I left the bookstore to the story's lingering presence after the last page was read, and of the places around me, like the bookstore, or where I read the book. Whatever kind of book it was, even if it was a boring one, the memory of the time we shared together is mine alone, and it forms a story uniquely mine. Then I go out to a bookstore again in search of my next encounter, and that 1 in 10 winner. If I visit the same bookstore every day, my route through the store will eventually settle into a routine. While browsing the store from a fixed route is more efficient, it diminishes the appeal and meaningfulness of going to the bookstore. Once my route becomes established, I stop seeing what lies beyond it. Going to a new or less familiar bookstore will disrupt my ossifized patterns of thought, and though I feel lost, the experience can be fascinating. Even if the store carries the same books, those books may show a different side of themselves in a shop of a different scale, environment, or arrangement. It's like how the same word can take on a different meaning depending on context or situation, or how you can discover a person's many different charms by seeing them within different social groupings. That's why, at the risk of repeating myself, I could never stop going to bookstores. It may be less the case now than before we had the internet and social media, but bookstores still remain a repository of the most current information. One circuit through the aisles is all that you need to gain a good estimation of what is trending just about everywhere. Even today, a bookstore is a microcosm of the world. Take, for example, NHK morning TV dramas. Even if you don't follow a particular show, a display of several related books could allow you to speculate that the show must have good ratings, while a cover-side-up stack of an actor's photo book will tell you that they are currently popular, whether or not you know who they are. A walk through the sports, how-to, finance, business and manga sections will give you a bird's-eye view of much of the world. Some will read the above and think, sure, but I can get that much from the internet. But that's not true. The information you see on the internet comes to you filtered and tailored to your personal likings and interests. In a bookstore, information of all types comes into your view passively as you browse, even on topics that you don't follow. Bookstores create a broader context that doesn't exist on the internet. Of course, for generations that have mastered it, I'm sure the internet offers its own context from which encounters will emerge. Denying that isn't my intention, but I personally choose to keep my focus on bookstores and books. I want to bring my physical body to a store with books on display that I can reach out and touch. I want to walk through the aisles and notice a book on an end cap or a shelf, and then to take the book in my hand, bring it to the register, have the receipt put inside, and read it with total focus. This insistence is not the product of an older generation's nostalgia. Rather, the process of choosing a book or a movie has a certain universality that carries over to choosing people as well. Discovering a 1 in 10 winner from the overwhelming number of books in a bookstore requires constant training and practice. You can't just go up to the store, input new release novel winner and press search. You have limited time and clues with which to make a choice. You can look at the front cover, read the sales copy and blurbs, read the summary and the afterword, or other supplemental material and skim the text inside. Then, based on those clues, you have to apply your own aesthetics and values to judge whether the book will be a winner. The process is the same as evaluating a co-worker or their proposals or various projects or plans. Those are no different than an unread book. You have to make the decision before you read. In the case of a book, the penalty for a wrong decision may simply be boredom. But in business or other large-scale projects, poor judgment can result in a massive disaster that impacts a great number of people. Unlike visiting a foreign land inside a book, the decision of where to go on a real-life vacation could even be matter of life or death. This safety from harm might cause the imaginative experience of reading a book to be judged inferior to real experience, but that is not the case. Making contact with memes in the forms of books or movies or other media provides knowledge and wisdom necessary for going out into the real world. They are legitimate experiences all the same. The way I go about choosing books naturally results in me learning about the real world. I'm grateful that many critics consider my work to have originality and a distinctive creative vision. I can safely say that going to bookstores and picking out books is part of what makes that possible. By training my eye and my aesthetic perceptivity to find winners, I've formed my own viewpoint and values which yield creative output with originality. Finding books and movies through the opinions and recommendation of others is certainly important, but from the moment you open that first page, you must enter the world of that book with your own values and sensibilities. There's absolutely nothing wrong with disliking a book that someone else recommended to you. Your judgment was made from your own point of view. If you liked a book simply because someone else praised it, that would be no different than retweeting a post on Twitter. Nothing of you is there. Don't be concerned about being wrong or having a differing opinion. What wonderful results might arise when you discover a winner with your own eyes and mind. Something that is a winner for me may not be a winner for you, but that's all right. I suspect the desire to communicate that idea might be why I develop video games, write essays, or contribute blurbs to movies or books. The essays contained within this book are only a tiny fraction of the books and movies I've selected with my legs, my eyes, and my mind. This selection of works, rather, the broader context they represent, formed who I am, and therefore my own creations. The means these stories communicated to me provided the energy I use to create and to live. None have diminished in their appeal in the years that have passed since the publishing of this book's original edition. Once more, I take this opportunity to deliver these memes to you, in the hope that they may form a bridge between us. So that is the introduction to Hideo Kojima's The Creative Gene. As I said, I will be taking this book away with me on my honeymoon, mainly because I have a 24-hour flight to New Zealand and then obviously one back again, so I will have plenty of time for reading. And in the new year, I look to do a review video of this book. But for now, thanks very much for watching this video, or rather listening to this video, I guess. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to the channel.